y'all. Welcome to Crimley Creative, a podcast, and I guess now a floss tube also about my various creative endeavors. My name is Susan. You can find me on Ravelry as Legal Eagle. You can also find me on Instagram as @Crimley Creative Podcast. And you can email me at crimleycreativepodcast@gmail.com. If this is your first time here, I appreciate you checking me out. If you are one of the few people who's been here for a while, I appreciate you sticking around, particularly as sporadic as I am. And hopefully you'll enjoy what I've got to show you today, which is a mixed bag of a lot of stuff. So I know it has been 2.5 months since our last podcast. And of course, as usual, last time I said, oh, I'm going to do this every month. Yeah, I don't know where March and April went. All I can say is work has been busy. Life has been busy. It is what it is. So, waiting longer means I have more to show you, but it also means I have to decide what to show you because there's just not enough time to show you everything I've actually touched. But anyway, let's get to it. In general, haven't been a lot of specific things going on. I am now fully vaccinated, which is great, particularly since I have been largely back to work since last fall. So there's a lot of people from the public that come in my building, so it's nice to at least have that little bit of extra security. And that's really been about it. Work. We've seen family a little bit. Our daughter and her family were here one weekend, but that's about it. So I have been doing some crafting as time allows, largely on the weekends. But I've gotten a few things done, so let me show you. We'll start off with verdicts, which for those of you new here is what I call my finished objects. And the first thing I finished is I finally finished my 2020 temperature blanket. Now, I am going to put a picture in here of the whole thing because there's no way that I can hold this thing up and show it to you completely because I think it's almost 8 feet long. What I did, I'm sorry, I'm looking to try to figure out which end is the beginning. I think this is the beginning. I did one garter ridge for every day of 2020 in shades of blue, and the color was determined by the high temperature of that day. And if you go to Ravelry, you can see what color was for what temperature. I'm probably not going to remember exactly, but basically I started, this is the bottom of the blanket where this hand is. I just started here, and for the last day of each month, I did an eyelet row to kind of indicate that was the end of the month. So this is January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. So, like I said, I hope by now I've put a whole picture in, but as you can see, this monstrous giant thing it's been laying in the floor of my craft room folded up until I got around to podcasting to show you, and my cat's been laying on it. Now it is actually going to go out to the couch and become my cuddle under on the couch blanket. I had done one of these about, I think 2017, 2018 in some colors that weren't really mine, so I gave that one to my 4-year-old grandson when they were here a couple weeks ago because he, like my daughter, is all about the blankets and would have 20 blankets on his bed if he was allowed to. So anyway, I did mention I made that all out of Cascade 220 Superwash, and I knit it on a US 8, which is a 5mm needle. So I have finished one pair of socks. If you've been here for a while, you know the past few years I've done a pair of socks a month. I'm not doing that this year, but I am carrying a pair of socks around in my pocketbook like I normally do. So I did finish the first pair of socks that I think I showed you last time, and I forgot to grab sock blockers to show you, so I'm just going to hold them up. But this is out of Nomadic Yarns Yak Sock in the Christmas Past colorway. And that color's showing up pretty good. I have decided that I want to slowly accumulate at least one pair of Christmas socks for every day of December, a la Amy from the Stranded Knitting Podcast. I don't know how many I have right now, maybe 3 or 4. I have a couple pairs that you could call Christmas because they're the right colors, but they're not, the colorway name for the yarn wasn't Christmas, so I probably won't put them in the box because that's the way I roll. So, anyway, the next thing I had finished knitting is, and I don't think I had started this the last time I podcast, but, and it is finished. The ends are woven in, but I haven't given it its bath yet, so the ends are still all kind of hanging out. This is the Bounce Blanket by Tin Can Knits. I made this out of Neighborhood Fiber Company Studio DK. And this is a baby blanket for my friend Peggy's newest granddaughter. Not first grandchild. But newest granddaughter. And, well, I guess I've got it backwards. And I unashamedly copied this colorway, this color combination from Laura from the Knit Girls. She made a blanket exactly like this last year, and I loved it so much that I immediately went out and bought the yarn. So it's Neighborhood Fiber Company Studio DK, and it's in their shades of turquoise gradient, which are the blues, obviously. And then this limey green color is called Bel Air. So, I am not one of those people that subscribes to everything for girls has to be pink, and blue can't be for girls, and pink and purple can't be for boys. So, I love these colors. I think they're bright and fun, and I hope that Peggy's little granddaughter does too. So, that needs a bath. I knit that on a US 7 4.5 millimeter needle. That is one of my go-to patterns for baby blankets because it's interesting enough that it's not completely, you don't get bored just knitting garter or stockinette, but it's repetitive enough that you don't have to think too hard, and it knits up relatively fast, particularly if you do it in like a DK weight. And then the last thing I finished knitting-wise is I finished my 3-color Cashmere Cow, which is a pattern by Joji Locatelli. I knit this out of the Fiber Company at Yarns to Die For's Cashmere Silk, which is really super soft. I highly recommend this yarn. And the colorways are Haint Blue is the lighter blue, Navy, and then Cabernet. And this is going to be for me. I had knit my sister. It's not going to look very good because I've got a hood on my sweatshirt, but I had knit my sister a different Joji Locatelli pattern cowl similar to this out of this yarn a couple years ago, and I since then have been saying I was going to make myself one, so I finally did. I knit this to pattern with the exception of I ran out, these little stripes of Cabernet right here are supposed to be Haint Blue, but I ran out of the Haint Blue. These are 50 gram skeins, and I tend to be a little bit of a loose knitter, so I'm sure that the reason I ran out is my gauge, because I had it as enough yarn according to the pattern, but this is probably a little looser gauge than the pattern calls for if I had to guess. I'm not going to measure because I don't care. I actually don't like my cows to be super, super tight. So, so that's all the finished objects for knitting, but I do have one other finished object. I think last time I podcasted, I had started taking my beginning quilter class. If not, I think I told you about it, but that class is over, and I have finished a quilt, a smallish quilt. The class is designed to make basically a 4-block quilt, like wall hanging, but she offered an option this time to make what would be like, I don't know what they're called, but like you lay at the end of a bed, or it could be a table runner, although it's kind of wide to be a table runner. I don't have a lot of wall space for hanging stuff in my house, so I opted for the longer thing. And I will put a picture in here of me holding up the whole thing so you can see it a little better. But I'll try to show you here. I can't tell you the fabrics. They're fabrics I picked out at the quilt store because I liked them. And I can't tell you the names of the block patterns either because I don't remember. I have them somewhere in my material, but I know I had to make some flying geese. I know there's something about a pinwheel. There's a pinwheel in one of these, things like that, but I don't remember the names of the quilt blocks. So anyway, it is just 4 blocks, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this very well. It is, the end result is, I don't know, not quite 6 foot long, about 6 foot long, I guess. And I did the back. Now I know this is a how do you say it? Cafe Facet? I don't know how you say his name. Whatever his name is, I know this fabric is from him. And I chose to do a backing fabric that was similar colors but doesn't actually match. My mother probably hates this because she likes to flip up the corner of the quilt and it go well with the top. Obviously the tones of purples here are different, but in my mind this is more of a fall and this is more, you know, springy, summery, so it kind of makes it reversible. I did pretty good on the piecing. I will tell you though, the quilting on this is really hinky. It is a hot mess and all over the place, but it does its job. My little brother sewing machine is great and does pretty much everything I ask it to, but it doesn't have a very deep throat for quilting, which is fine with me because honestly, this is probably the biggest thing I would ever try to quilt myself on my machine. I think my intent is to do more smaller, like little hanging quilts. You know, I've got several kits and stuff that I want to do. And I have bought way too much fabric lately, but we'll talk about that later. But if I ever do a full size like bed quilt, I will take it to Kerry Quilting or somewhere and have them quilted on the Long Run Quilter. So it's not worth me buying another machine at the moment because at this point in my life, I don't think I'm going to get that heavily onto quilting. I just kind of wanted to know better how to do it and want to dabble with it. May actually try, I have kind of in my head some freeform quilting that's kind of like the art quilting with pictures and stuff, you know, where you kind of use the fabric to create an image. But I'm not sure if I can translate what's in my head to practice. So maybe one of these days when I have some extra time, we'll give that a try. So, excuse me. So that is all for the verdicts. We will move on to court in session. I'm going to start with knitting. I'm only going to show you the three projects that I'm working on that are not blankets. I am still working on a lot of long-term blankets, but honestly, they don't look that much different from week to week, the way that I'm working on them. So I probably am not going to, unless I get something that's obvious done, I'm probably not going to show you those again until the end of the year when you can just see the difference between what the beginning of the year was and what the end of the year was. But the three other projects I've been working on lately, I have another pair of socks on the needle. Like I said, I carry socks around in my pocketbook. This is my on-the-go knitting if I'm sitting waiting somewhere or just have a few minutes at lunchtime that I want to have a brain break. I've got this right now in a Jan Smiley bag. This bag actually came with a kit, a collaboration with, I can't remember the designer off the top of my head, but it was yarn from the Copper Corgi, the bag from Jan Smiley, and I'll look it up and put the name of the designer at least here and the pattern that it was for. I've done the pattern, but it was a couple years ago. So these are basically, I do my socks 2 at a time, toe up on US 0 2mm needles. And I'm getting, maybe an inch or so from needing to turn my heels. This yarn is, and looks like I've gotten through one color repeat. So this yarn is Mustache yarn in the Grand Canyon colorway. This is part of her National Parks series she was doing. I don't know if she's still doing those, if she's still doing new parks or if she's done with that. I actually have not bought any yarn all year, which is amazing. Not that I have not spent money on craft supplies. It's just has been on fabric and cross-stitch fabric and patterns, as you'll see later. Anyway, so that's, I don't know if you can really see that better in there, but so those are the ones that are riding around in my pocketbook right now. The next thing I'm working on is I have started another baby blanket. I'm not sure yet. This one probably is going to be for a coworker of mine whose wife is due in June. I'll see how the full thing comes out, or if I get it done in time. I made last year, if you've followed me for a while, you'll see, or if you go back on my Instagram, you can see pictures. Last year, I made 2 of the crocheted Baby Yodas. And when I bought the yarn for it, I had bought enough yarn to actually make 3 of them, because in my head, I was going to make 3, but 2 was enough. I made one for me for my office and the other one for my husband, because I knew if I made myself one and took it to the office, my husband would want one. So anyway, so the other leftover yarn that I had bought, well, I didn't have a lot of the brown leftover because I think the pattern had actually been knit with balls of yarn that were bigger than the ones that I was able to get. But the leftover green yarn I actually just donated to the thrift store because I knew I would never use it. But this almond color yarn that was like the trim around his little coat and stuff, it's an acrylic. It's 100% acrylic, I think. I don't have my readers on. 100% polyester acrylic, I guess. And it's a chunky, but it's just really soft, and so I thought it would make a great baby blanket. And lo and behold, the yarn is actually, I didn't say that, the yarn is Bernay Blanket, is what it's called, in the almond colorway. And lo and behold, Bernay has a pattern for it, and it's called the Shadow Cable Baby Blanket, and I have really just kind of started it. So, this is knit on US 11s, 8mm, which it's really, I mean, you can't just knit away on this like I normally do everything. One, the yarn kind of not sticks together. Well, it doesn't slide through the loops as easily. So it's a bit of an effort to knit. It's not unpleasant to knit. It's just not necessarily, you know, something I'm like, oh, I want to knit on that. So I tend to have been using it some when I've just been watching TV and stuff and I'm otherwise distracted and not really having to pay that much attention to it. And then the last thing, sorry, got to figure out where it went. The last thing that I've been working on is, again, if you followed me for a while, you know I love Rami Hill. I love almost all of Rami Hill's patterns. And I am once again doing her Spring Mystery Knit Along. So if you are doing the Spring Mystery Knit Along and you don't want to be spoiled because you're way behind, turn away now. Clue 3 just came out, or 4. Clue 4 just came out yesterday, and I have just barely started it. So I have done 1 through 3. So if you haven't gotten that far and don't want to see something, I am using Madeline Tosh Merino Light Plus Tweed in the Medieval colorway, which is like a plummy purple. Sorry, the light's not the greatest. And Copper Pink, which is really kind of a rosy pink color. And this is on needles that are too short to show you very well. But so the top started, I will say this is the first time I have ever done a loop start at the top of a shawl. She had you start with the, I don't know what the start is called. It's where, you know, basically you fold the yarn over in kind of a loop, and then you go under the loop and grab a loop, and then over the loop and grab a loop. I don't know what the name of it is, sorry. And I have used that before for like a circular start, for a circular shawl, but I've never used it at the top of a shawl. But what it does is it gives you much less of a blip up here than the garter tab does. I mean, there's still a little bit of one because of the nature of, you got to have a few stitches and you start off so it's not totally straight. But I think this is going to block out a lot easier than the garter tab start. So it started off with garter stitch, and then we started some what is pearls on the other side, or, you know, knit stitches to create like a little pattern. There's some bobbles, some lace, and then you got a slip stitch area to get the purple and trying to get the colors good. And then Clue 3 had another bobble and the start of lace, and I've only done like 2 rows of Clue 4. So this is going into kind of a leaf lace pattern from looking, because I don't mind being spoiled. As soon as the clue comes out, I go and look and see what it looks like. So from what I saw from the tester patterns, oops, sorry, I'm shaking the table that my camera's on. It's like a leaf lace pattern. So I love her patterns. They're always fun to knit. They're always I just love them. So, excuse me. So like I said, I am, that's all I'm really actively knitting on, other than whatever scrap blankets are in my rotation for the month. This month, well, since our last podcast, I have worked some on Northeasterly. I have worked on my sock blanket. I think I've worked on one of the other ones, but I can't remember what it is. Coming up for May, I'm going to be working on my Granny Square blanket and my striped miter blanket, which is the bigger squares with striped yarn. So that is all the knitting. And so now I'm going to talk about cross stitch. And I have really been spending a lot more bigger blocks of time cross stitching lately. Cross stitching, of course, takes longer, at least for me it does, to like see progress, I guess. But I've really been enjoying working on cross stitch at night. And so that's where a lot more of my time has gone than knitting. Knitting to me is much more portable. So knitting is what I do while watching TV and when I'm out and about and stuff like that. But after I go into my craft room each evening, I'm usually doing a little bit more cross stitch than knitting. So anyway, let me show you what I've been working on. The first thing is the Modern Folk Embroidery Stitch Along for 2021. The pattern this is a stitch along, but it's not a mystery. So he's already released a picture of what the whole thing will look like, which I will put in here. The pattern is called The Fruit of Plenty, and it's by Jacob DeGraff of Modern Folk Embroidery. And I have finished through April. So, and it started up here, January, across February, March, and then April's the one right below January. So May, which just came out today, will go right there. And the last couple of months, I have waited to like mid-month to start. And so I've really kind of been scrambling at the end of the month to get it done, to keep up. This month I'm going to try to work on this at least 30 minutes every day. I mean, I'll have to still put some more concentrated time into it, but if I do at least 30 minutes every day, it will at least be slowly making some progress. 30 minutes a day should give me, I don't know, I haven't actually timed how many stitches I do, but I figured out that if I only worked on it, once a day, every day, I'd have to do like a little over 100 every day, but I'll probably do some days with more of that. So if I get 50 or 75 stitches in that 30 minutes or so, and of course, if I say 30 minutes, I'll probably end up working on it for 45 minutes or something, but hopefully that will be a little bit more steady progress, and I won't be scrambling so much at the end of the month to get it done. The other stitch along that I'm working on is the Made to Create stitch along. Oh, that's still in the hoop. I need to take that out. Which is by Caterpillar Cross Stitch. Oh, and I didn't say, the Modern Folk Embroidery I am doing on 36 count antique white Zweigart, and I am doing it in the pattern recommended colors for the 2-color version, which is DMC 3750 and 932. I think 932 is the lighter color, lighter blue. I'm also doing the Made to Create stitch along, which is, and bear with me a minute while I take this out of the hoop so you can see the whole thing. A 6-month stitch along from Caterpillar Cross Stitch. This is on a 32 count even weave, 2/2. I'm using the kit floss, but it's a DMC. And the 4th part just came out yesterday. I haven't finished it yet, but so this is what it looks like so far. And I'm sorry I don't iron my stuff beforehand because I just don't have time for that shit. So hopefully as I finish things, you will get to see them a little better, and I'll pull what I can out. So this started with the E. Let me see if you can see that without getting too much shadow. And the C over here, this like paint, this is like a painter's palette, is the start of the fourth clue that just came out yesterday. And I haven't, there'll be colors in there, and then there's a couple other things up here and a string that goes across. So that's the first 3 plus the start of the fourth part. And obviously it's going to say create. So the next 2 parts will be a T and an E over here. And that's been fun. That is not as much stitching as the Modern Folk Embroidery, which is honestly, this past month was a little over 4,000 stitches. May's Modern Folk Embroidery, I think, is only close, more around 3,600. But it's a decent, you know, that one's a lot of stitching for, or a lot of stitching to do some other things. This one is a lot fewer stitches, although it's still, you know, a decent amount. But get that back in the bag. Okay, so next thing I worked on, I mentioned last time I'm doing Whip Go. And so one of my projects, this was actually a project for April. Let me skip ahead. I got it out of order. Let me go to March first. Sorry. So March Whip Go numbers were called, and for March, it ended up both of my blocks being the same thing, same project, which was dance, which I showed you last time in my whip parade. And dance was a project that I had started. I mean, it was my oldest whip by a long shot. I think I started it back in like 2003, 2004, with the intention of making it for my daughter, who graduated from high school in 2006. Obviously, that didn't happen. I liked, and it was something that I had gotten a border from a book, and I had graphed out the words to the song "I Hope You Dance" by Leanne Womack. And so I figured, well, I'll go ahead and finish it, and I'll give it to my granddaughter, my daughter's daughter, who was just born last year. But when I actually pulled it out at the beginning of March to work on it for Whip Go, I realized that the fabric was a lot more stained than I had realized just from years of sitting in a hoop and crammed in a bag somewhere. The fabric, it was Aida, which I don't mind Aida, but the fabric was just so stiff. It wasn't worth working on. So I just threw the whole thing away. I may do that project again sometime. I don't know. I may not. But anyway, so in its place on my Whip Go board, I added my One Nation by Bygone Stitches. So it got some work. And so this ended up being both my blocks for March Whip Go, which was 5 days each. And then it also ended up being one of my blocks for April Whip Go for another 5 days. So this got at least 15 days over the past 2 months. And this is on 28 count, and I will put a picture of what the finished thing will look like here, although the pattern picture is not the greatest. Actually, maybe I'll see if I can find one online that I feel like I can use, but if not, it's basically a flag with the stripes are done, are all the names of the states, but they're listed in the order that they joined the Union. So this is One Nation. I think, I don't know if I started to say, this is on 28 count. Picture this plus ale, 2/2, and I'm using the called for Classic Colorworks. So this is the top left of the flag, and let me fold it over one more. So this is like the flag part, and there'll be stripe under here and way over here. It's going to be rather large. I mean, this is a big piece. But it is 2/2 on 28, so it's like 14 count Aida. So that's part of the reason that it's so large. My plan, if I get it finished in time, is to hang this in my office at work. And I laugh when I say finishing time, because I still have not quite 5 years before I can retire, but, who knows? It might be 5 years from now before I finish it. So that was March Whip Go both times and one of my April Whip Go blocks. And then my other April Whip Go block was my Treasure Hunt bookshelf, which is a Heaven and Earth Designs pattern. And the artwork is by Amy Stewart. This is still in a Q-snap, but everything that I've stitched you can see, so I'm not going to take it out. This is on 25 count even weave, 1/1 with DMC. And so that's what I've done. I can't remember if I bought this before my last podcast or not. I did invest, I didn't invest. I bought a relatively inexpensive Android tablet so that I could use Pattern Keeper. So that has helped a lot with the full coverage, is being able to use Pattern Keeper, because I tend to be, I'm kind of a color complete, kind of a, I can't remember what they call it now. I don't stitch on the diagonal, but rather I like to finish a 10 by 10 square, but I pick a color in it and I do everything in that square, and then I finish at least that strand of thread, and then I come back to that square that I started with and pick another color and do that and finish that strand of thread. So, you know, I'm going, and I'm trying to work by page, because that's just the way. I don't want to travel off the page unless I can avoid it. So I will park off the page, but I won't unless it's just one more stitch or that's all the thread that's left, I generally won't stitch off the page. So, you know, you can see I've got a little bit more solid up here. And when I pick this up again, I will pick up in here and fill those colors and work out, you know, and I'll kind of get that as full as I can. But you see these colors that carry down in here. So anyway, my goal for April Whip Go was 500 stitches. I set my goals for Whip Go relatively low for two reasons. One, I was recently getting back into stitching, and I didn't really have a good concept of how many stitches I would get a day. And two, because of my work cycle, I knew that particularly at least the first 6 months of the year, my hours of crafting would sometimes be very limited. And I didn't want to, while I know a lot of people use Whip Go for yearly goals, I wanted them to be a little bit more like monthly goals. And so I wanted them to be stuff that that were a little, not so much a stretch, but I could achieve and felt like it was a decent amount, but if I went over. So anyway, my April goal for this was 500 stitches. I actually got 1,846 stitches on it because I used it. It got picked a couple times in Choose My Whip and Semi-Sane Stitchers. So I got a decent little amount on it because of that too. So, okay, let's see what's next. The other thing I worked on a little bit is my Where Liberty Dwells. This was my inauguration day start. And, sorry, I usually finish a thread before I put a project away, but I was using this one for something in Semi-Sane Stitchers. I can't remember what you call it, but it was a color game where you had to stitch certain colors. So as a result of that, I did get a little bit more done. This is a pattern by Heartstring Samplery. I'm doing it on 36 count Winter Moon Zweigart, 1 thread over 2, and I'm using the Called for Weeks Die Works, except for I subbed DMC 3865 for the parchment because the parchment was too close to my fabric color. Now the 3865 doesn't stand out really well, but it stands out a little bit better than mainly it's between the red and blue there, and it's the eagle's head, but I don't know that I can get that where you can see it. But I mean, you can't do an eagle's head something other than white, so anyway, I can see it in person a little better than it shows up on screen. So, obviously I needed brown and red. And at the time, this was about the border around it is kind of red and the words are kind of brown. That was about the only thing I had at the time that had those colors in it. So that's what I got done on that. And then, so the next one is a new start you haven't seen. And I started this, I kitted this up in early February, and I was postponing starting it. Didn't want to start it. Well, I wanted to start it. I was trying to make myself not start it. Who knows why. But then I needed something with black for that color game I was playing. And I didn't have anything else that actually was using black, at least not in a place where I was. I think the Treasure Hunt bookshelf's got some black in it, but it wasn't nowhere near where I was working. So I started Quarantine Cats, and I didn't even show you that Where Liberty Dwells. Let me back up. Sorry about that. I actually have a picture of Where Liberty Dwells, sort of, and I didn't show you that, so that's kind of what the finished object will look like. I do so many of my patterns with PDF that I forget sometimes. Oh, sorry, things are getting hung up here. The magnets have my yarn trapped, my thread trapped. So this is, anyway, this is Quarantine Cats, which is another Heaven and Earth design. And it's just, you know, quarantine, it's just appropriate. And I love it. And, my yarn is all tangled up. So I don't have, I'll put a picture of what it'll look like here. I don't have a whole lot of this done yet. I'm doing it on 25 count potato Lugana in the potato colorway. 1 thread over 2 with DMC. I think I said it's a Heaven and Earth design. The artwork is by Bridget Ashwood. So that's all I've done. However, I am going to be using this, and again, this is also a pretty big piece. I don't know that it's going to be quite as big as this piece of fabric. I think actually, well, it's going to be close, because I marked off across to make sure I had enough, and that's kind of like the end point. So, I am using this in May for Needleworker Sweep in Semi-Sane Stitchers. So, my goal for that is 4,710 stitches. So, it will hopefully have some decent progress this month if I can actually get that done. And then the last one is also a new start, and it is a new start as of today, because it is May 1st. And if you're in cross-stitching, you know that a lot of people do Mania in May in some version, which started, I think, in like, I don't know, from what I've heard, 2015, and there was I don't know if they did 15 starts. There's a group on Facebook that is actually getting ready to close, and people have varying versions of it, but I am not doing, some people do a start every day, some people do the number of starts for the year, like, so it's 2021, so they would do 21 starts the first 21 days of May. Some people do something that's called the Blimey Cat method that I haven't seen that podcast yet, but apparently she stitches whatever she started the previous Mays on their birthday, and then is allowed new starts for the other days that don't have something. Because May is one of my busiest months for work, I knew that there was no way I could do like a start a day or a ridiculous number of starts, but I did have several projects I wanted to start. So what I've decided is I'm going to start a new project every weekend in May, and there are 5 weekends, and so today is the first one, and I will typically start on Saturdays if possible. So anyway, my first start is and I don't have a full picture in here, so I'll have to put a picture up here, is The Tree of Magic by Barbara Anna. And I have bought several Barbara Anna designs, but I have not, this is the first one I've ever started to stitch. This is only available as a kit from Nitka which is a company in Russia. And so I bought this and her Christmas tree. When I ordered it, I got both kits. So I've started the Tree of Magic. This is as far as I've gotten today. There's a little bit more down here, but I wasn't going to take it out of the Q-snap to show you 5 more stitches. And I'll probably work on this a little bit more this weekend, so it just wasn't worth it. So I've started in the middle because I measured and I wasn't 100% sure about where to start coming from the top. So I started in the middle and basically stitched up to the very top of the tree, and then I'm going to work my way down from there. So I've just got that little house and the little bird under it because I still had dark brown floss on my needle. So like I said, I tend to color complete if I can do it in the area without cutting the yarn. And obviously on full coverage pieces, I don't worry about traveling because it's all going to be hidden behind yarn anyway. But so that is it for cross stitching WIPs. What else? What's next? Let's see. How about stashing for retirement? So if you're new here, I don't normally show everything. I know a lot of podcasters and floss tubers do a haul, everything they bought since the last time. Although a lot of floss tubers also put out videos a lot more frequently than I probably will. So it's not as much. You know, I buy a lot of shit. And I, for the most part, will not show it to you until I'm actually using it. But since there was Needlework Expo, which was the replacement this year for Market, I thought I would show you what I bought that were new releases, and then a couple other charts that just came in this week. But before I get to that, I did want to show you one other thing I bought, which is a someday when I have enough skills project. And this is not cross stitch, but one of the podcasters that are floss tubers that I watch is Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, who does cross stitch but also does quilting. Excuse me. And of course, excuse me, I just took that beginning quilting class. This is way beyond my skill level right now. It might be 10 years or more from now before I ever touch this. But if you know anything about quilting or fabric, you know fabric lines don't stay around. Go watch Pumpkin Hollow Quilts and listen to Olivia talk about her Civil War line that she missed, but that someone has actually gifted her recently. So when she showed this, I had to have it. And I found it. It's not, there are still some shops out there online that do have it. It's not as easy to find anymore. But anyway, I love Jane Austen. And this, I'm going to show you the box that came in. I mean, it's like a book. This is a replica, I guess. I don't know if it's actually technically a replica. That might not be the right word. This is the Jane Austen coverlet quilt. And my understanding is this is a, I guess, replica of sorts of the quilt that hangs, there we go, I was trying to find the picture, in the Jane Austen Museum in England, which I would love to visit someday. There's a little bit better. This centerpiece is fussy cut, which, if you're not a quilter, means it's like cut around the shape of it. This is all a bunch of diamonds. They all have to be cut with this diamond ruler that came in the kit. And some of them have to be fussy cut, like the diamond, you cut the diamond around the rose that's in the fabric pattern. Like I said, way beyond my skill level right now. But, and honestly, really not my, in a normal sense, probably not my typically fabric I would gravitate towards if I just saw the fabric. I mean, this looks like the curtains that used to hang in my mother's living room. But I do like this one, the light blue background. You know, but the overall quilt is beautiful, and I couldn't pass up getting the kit. If I don't get the skill level, I might eventually pay somebody hundreds of dollars to make the damn thing for me. But I think it's a queen size quilt. I don't know. I don't care. I just had to have it. Oh, here's a picture of the original Coverlet quilt. So anyway, the Riley Blake Designs did the pattern. That's the fabric too, I think. I don't know what fabric brand Riley Blake designs for, because I don't know that much about quilting yet. But anyway, like I said, that is going on a shelf. It might be 10 years or more. It will definitely be retirement before I ever even try to touch that. But I had to have it. So anyway, besides that, I did buy some charts from Needlework Expo, and I just thought I'd show you what caught my eye to give you a sense of my type of style. I don't tend to be a sampler girl, although occasionally the Quaker samplers will draw my eye. And I mean, like right now, I really want to start Leela Studios Halloween Quaker and Christmas Quaker. I have bought both patterns, digital patterns, but I just, you know, I gotta rein it in a little bit. So anyway, I bought, here's what I got. Silver Creek Samplers, Butter Believe It. And this one has fabric in it because I actually bought the 18 count Fog Ada that it calls for. I am going to make this for one of my co-workers for her birthday in October. It says, I have a lot to say. Maybe you should get popcorn. So, then another Silver Creek Samplers, Lighting the Way. I just really liked this one. It says, always be a lighthouse, shine your beacon bright, guide every soul adrift at sea through their dark. Guide every soul adrift at sea throughout their darkest night. There we go. I liked the picture on it and the saying. I got 2 Annie B's, what is it, Annie B's Folk Art. I got Stars and Stripes Forever. You will find that I do have a patriotic bent. Patriotic is where I will get most prim. I'm not a prim person typically, except I do kind of like the patriotic primitive. And that just says Stars and Stripes Forever on it. And then also American Sampler House, again, kind of a patriotic theme. One of the reasons I'm not into most samplers is, and I get the purpose of the alphabets on the samplers because I understand what samplers are and the historic significance behind them. And part of me, because I love history, wants to like samplers, but I just don't get excited by stitching a bunch of alphabets, you know. And there are some samplers I do occasionally buy because I like some of the motifs in them. And I have, of course, grand plans of maybe doing smaller versions, just using some of it or something. But anyway, that does have an alphabet. You know, I might end up, who knows, I might end up graphing something else on the side of that house instead of the alphabet. Or I might end up doing the alphabet. I don't know. The Blue Flower, The Gentle Rain. It says, how sweet the music of the rain. I'm not sure why, but I just really liked that one. Let's see. I'm trying to get where you can see it close enough without the glare or shadow. Maybe that's better. I just thought it was cute. Little girl in her raincoat and boots, and the dog and the cat, and there's a stork over here and a little squirrel up here in the tree. I just thought it was cute. Oops, I think I showed you the back of that chart there. Didn't mean to. And then Jeanette Douglas Designs, Let's Do What We Love. It says, let's do what we love and do it a lot. And again, not really super my style, but I just liked it. I'm debating. I'd like to make something for a friend of mine, and I'm debating maybe making that for her, but I haven't decided yet. So the next one is O Feathers by Rosewood Manor. This is definitely more my typical style, bright colors. I like the Quaker motif look. I like graphic design looking. And I bought the sulky pack that goes with this. Although, one of the things I've bought, I think since we last talked, I can't remember when I bought it, Sulky had a sale on their Petites, which included sales on like the cases of Petites. So yeah, I bought a whole set. But I also bought the separate little pack particularly for this, even though I had the colors in my bigger set, just because I bought this from Fire Poppies, and after I'd ordered it, she messaged me. She's like, hey, we've got the sulky packs. Do you want? I was like, sure, throw it in. So anyway, this is going to be one of my May starts. So I have 5 May starts that I've picked out, and I'm just using a decision wheel to decide which one I start when. So Tree of Magic came up for today, and this one will get started one of these weekends in May. And then I got 2 Kathy Barracks, a Quaker Dwelling. Like I said, I do like the Quaker motifs. I'm not usually jazzed about the great big houses, but for some reason I just really liked this one. I think honestly, I think some of it is the fact that the brick is not uniform, that it's really made to look more like brick and stuff. The area I live in now used to be called the brick capital of the world. It's now like maybe the 2nd biggest brick place in the world. I don't know. It's Lee County, North Carolina, where there's lots of red clay and lots of brick. This is also Kathy Barrick, and again, it's sampler, but it's one of the math samplers. This is called Amelia Prescott and How Her Parents Did Educate Her. It's got an alphabet and a multiplication table, and then it says, this I have done to let you see how my parents did educate me. Amelia Prescott in the year 1824. And so this is one of those few samplers that just, everything about it I just really loved. The multiplication table and the saying and everything with it. So I will probably do this one actually as it's designed sometime. Who knows? It's 260 by 212. So it's not gigantic. It's not small by any means. And then these two, these are not Needle Expo, but they just came in this week. So I got Christmas Eve Ride from Needle Bling Designs. I really like the sentiment on this one. May you never be too old to search the skies on Christmas Eve. So I don't know how I will finish that whenever I do it, but I just wanted to have it. And then I am, everybody's all big on the Blackbird designs, and I don't dislike Blackbird designs, but they're typically not my jam. There are a few here and there that I do like, but I haven't bought a lot of Blackbird designs. But this book, it's been out a while, I think. Let me see if I can see a publication date on it. 2016. But I found out about this one, and like I said, I do tend to be a little more prim when it comes to patriotic, and this Sweet Land of Liberty I had to have. Primarily, what got me hooked on it was, I have drawn a blank on her name. She's stitching 911 Stitcher. Her name escapes me. I know what her name is. But anyway, she had started this, and she thought she was going to stop because she said the colors weren't her and stuff. And honestly, the way she had done it, it was a little stark to me. But I really like the pattern, and I really like it on that more antique looking fabric. So I think I would do it in a more, what I think of as Williamsburg type colors, with the rusty red burgundy and the Williamsburgy blue and stuff. So anyway, I ordered this book from 123 Stitch recently, and that just came in the other day. It has 5, let's see, there's 4 on the picture. Oh, this is the other one. I do like this. Is the one that's not on the picture. I do like In Full Glory because it has, probably because it has an eagle on it, and I like my username on Ravelry and on the internet when chat rooms were a thing. My username was always Legal Eagle. Anyway, so that is all the stashing for retirement that I was going to show you. I am going to do a giveaway. I have a pattern that I accidentally, so I ordered this. This is Let's Have Fun with Yarn by Ursula Michael. And it's a lot of back stitching. So if you're a knitter or a cross stitcher that loves a knitter, I ordered this forgetting that I had ordered it online as a PDF. So I have paid for it twice now. So I'm going to give away the hard copy because I prefer to work from PDF. And there's not a lot of y'all out there, so you should enter because you have a really good chance. If you want this, if you will leave a comment below and use the word yarn, all the general giveaway type rules apply. Be 18, so you can give me your address. Don't use giveaway, don't use free. However, with my podcast /FlossTube, there is one additional rule. Because of where I work, if you are a lobbyist principal in the state of North Carolina, you may not be eligible to win this. If you have no clue what I mean by lobbyist principal in the state of North Carolina, it doesn't apply to you. Don't worry about it. But if you are a lobbyist principal, I would prefer that you not enter, just to not create potential issues with the ethics rules. And if you are a lobbyist principal and you think that that's would probably not be an issue, feel free to send me an email and let's figure it out, because I really haven't thought through the whole thing. But, you know, I don't want to lose my job because I violate the ethics rules. So, I think that's about it. As for calendar, don't have a whole lot. We're planning a couple of small fall trips. We've planned a week at the beach with our friends in the fall again. Which the 2 couples that we've seen several times over the past year. My family is going to the beach for a week in July, which I hope to at least go down for a few days of. We are hoping to plan the trip that we canceled last year with my parents to New Orleans to go to the World War II Museum, and we need to get on that. But I think we're probably going to try to do that now that we have all been vaccinated. And it seems like things are going to be opening up a little bit more this summer. Excuse me, sorry. Suddenly have something in my eye. But anyway, so, you know, I'll leave with my normal. I hope to not be another 2.5 months before I come back. I'm going to try to get back again early June-ish. We'll see. Who knows, I might get an urge and start doing some little videos that I can cobble together later. I don't know. We'll see. I will try to be back sooner. I hope you've enjoyed it. And feel free to ask me any questions. And I do have notes on all my knitting projects on Ravelry, where again, I'm Legal Eagle. I have a spreadsheet on my cross stitch projects. I need to figure out how to share it in a way I can link it. Sometimes I'm very technologically astute, and other times I'm really dumb when it comes to it. So hopefully I'll figure that part out. Anyway, feel free to ask me any questions. Leave me any comments. Tell your friends about me. Honestly, I don't care. There's 70 some of you that subscribe to me, and I'm happy to have every single one of you. I will never try to make money off of this or anything. So, I do it because I enjoy it, and I enjoy showing y'all what I'm working on. So, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you later. Bye, y'all.